Hello and welcome to CEO. We are here today. I'm here with Alma Curran and this is Rachna Adianthaya, and we are going to be talking about reframing the mindset and breaking through those barriers. So hi Alma, how are you doing?
Hey Rach, I'm doing great. How
Good.
are you?
Yes, very good. Very good. Just, we've come out of this election and we're just
Yeah.
talking about the election hangover, that everyone's just feeling fatigue, aren't they, after the last, few years, to be honest. So this is a good time to talk about reframing mindsets and breaking through barriers that may be holding you back.
Yeah. It's such a great timing for that, Rachana, because as you know, um, for me, living in Asheville in Western North Carolina, since the end of September, we had the crazy storm and all the flooding and devastation. And then as we're
Mm,
recovering from that, then we had the election and the nervousness and anxiety leading up to that through our
mm.
communities. And then the results afterwards, lots of disappointment and anger within many communities. And it's just been a really rough time, I would say, for uh, uh,
Yeah.
many of us. Deciding just a couple of days ago, I was putting together my sideboard in my dining room
Yeah.
because in the middle of all this, I moved house and
Gosh.
I was putting together the sideboard and listening to a book. I just decided, you know what, enough of this.
Yeah.
Enough of this moping around. Yes, it gives me connection with myself, and I can feel sorry for myself, and I can connect with others, and in many cases, it is in our feminine nature to connect through
Mm.
suffering. But enough.
Yeah.
Let's find the good in it. Let's find the gift in it, right?
Well, you make a really important point there, Alma, I mean, it has been so turbulent, as you said, particularly for you because of what you've just experienced with the storms, election fatigue, all the other stuff, but the importance of actually feeling it, right? So you do feel whatever, sadness, grief, whatever those feelings are, sit in it for a while, but you can't stay in it, right? And you get, well, hopefully most of us get to a point where you're saying enough. The more we deal with this, the easier it is to pick yourself up quickly and move forward. Easier said than done, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people at the moment that I've spoken to that are feeling a little bit uncertain about what the future holds for them. And so this is a really good episode because we're talking about how do we make that change? How do we make that leap into a passion? Do we stay in something that we know that's familiar, that we could do pretty well with, or go into the unknown and follow maybe a dream, a passion that you're thinking, well, is it really a dream or passion, or is it just a whim? And will I get there or not? Will I be like the 97% that fail or whatever? Um, how how do you make that decision, and particularly in the face of what's happening externally? It's very easy to say it's not the right time, I'm going to shelve it
Mm,
now.
mm,
So I think it's pretty apt to talk about this particular topic
yeah.
today. But what do you think, breaking through those barriers? So in the first episode that we recorded, we talked about you know having that desire to do something else, but how do you know whether to really follow through? How do you know it's going to be the big idea? That How do you know that's going idea is going to um, be successful and be the right path for you to support your family and give you financial stability and all the other things that you crave? And so what are some of the key things that you would say helped you in the past make those decisions?
Well, Rachna, you and I are big advocates of not having to pull the trigger
Hmm.
all the way, right?
Yeah.
have your dream, set a deadline, and stay at your job or stay, right? You don't have to go all in. You can have the support or the certainty of your job that you're working in, so that you don't have to worry about paying the bills, right? You don't have that extra pressure or that stress while you are working towards your dream. So that's the first thing, right? Just really giving yourself that grace. Maybe if you went all in, maybe you would get there quicker, sure, but it would be a lot more stressful, and it's almost like you quit your job and you go all in on your dream,
Mm.
but you leave a mess in the wake of you, because you're messing up your relationship with your spouse, your children, or somebody, because you're constantly stressed out. It's just not worth it, in my
Yeah.
professional opinion. Give yourself that grace, right? Give yourself a specific timeline. And we talked about the mentors, right? And people who have done it. So seek out mentorship and accountability and actually get there within that timeline, right? But keep your job. So that's really the first piece. The second one is, honestly, I've been on entrepreneurship journey since 2012, and most of my ideas flopped.
Hmm.
Most
Yeah,
of them didn't make any money. Some of them made $12. Right? Some of them I gave up before I even launched. Right? I mean, give yourself that permission, that the understanding that on most entrepreneurship journeys, 90% of your ideas will fail.
that's right.
Yeah, it's
And that's
you're
not
going
to
into
hold you back. I mean, it's like,
no.
right.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, if you're going a traditional route, like, I don't know, for example, you're a dentist and you have been working for a dental office and you have been a dental associate, right? And then you go and start your own dentist practice, then most likely that idea is going to work out, right? But if you're doing something different or something complementary, there is a chance that it's not going to work out or not work out immediately.
Yeah, there's a time lag there, isn't there? And I think we don't focus in on that enough. It's like, well, you want that immediate success. You've just launched and you think, right, why is no one knocking down my door for my service? Like, I've got this great website, I've got
Mm-hmm.
some social posts. I mean, what else do you need? And there is a time lag. There is a definite period where you will hear crickets, and then all of a sudden it begins to ramp. And sometimes that can
Mm-hmm.
be really big for some people, but it can be a slow process. And part of this is what people fail to tell you is it takes a while. It can take a while. And so when you quit your day job, as they say, and you go all in with the other venture, many people fail because they haven't given it sufficient time, because they
Yeah.
can't, you can't sustain not earning an income. I also i struggle with that perception that you're all or nothing. Like, why do we even have that concept that you're all or
Yeah.
nothing? Like, you had a
Yeah.
really good point in the last episode where you said, when you grow up as a child, your family would have several jobs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they would farm that. They would, and why do we feel like we are this? Like, this is the only hat I am going to wear. I'm a mum and I have my own business and I am a wife and I wear many different hats. I'm a daughter. And then, so why do I think that all of a sudden I need to have one hat for the role I play, for the service I do, for the job I do? I think that's really quite a limiting belief that holds many of us back. And I think once you let go of that, it gives you the freedom to go, okay, here, it's not so scary. I can still keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to start this in, I'm going to start whatever I want to do. And it's going to be the small steps that I can do that are manageable now. But here's the thing, I'll know whether there's an appetite for this. And then when I do leave, it's a more informed decision. And that's where I can start bringing people in to help. I just think we've got it all wrong. I think our mindset on that whole thing is wrong. The other thing that I've heard many people talk to me about is they don't feel like they can really put everything into this passion of theirs because they are stuck 24 hours in this very demanding corporate job. And I hear that, and I think there's also another way to look at it, in that if you are in a corporate job and you can afford to take a year or take 2 years out and do this, and you could still be employable, you're still highly employable and can go back, that's always an option, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there, it just depends on where you are on that journey. Obviously, the higher up the ranks you are, that may be a little harder. But if you're young and you're just starting out, then that's still an option for you, to take that year out, take a sabbatical, do what, think about things in a different way.
Absolutely. Another piece of mindset that I found valuable is that when we identify with our job, let's say if you are a dentist, but you really want to own a coffee shop, right? It's
Yeah,
like it's something that you want to do. If you continue to identify as a dentist, you are going to remain in your dentist position,
right.
right? And your subconscious mind is going to find every reason why the coffee shop isn't for you, or the coffee shop is a joke, or there's too much competition, there's too many coffee shops in town. Right? The subconscious mind's job is to keep you consistent with who you identify as, right? So if you want to own that coffee shop, you what would benefit you is to start identifying as a coffee shop owner, right? And while my dentist job pays the bills, but I'm a coffee shop owner,
Hmm.
right? And you start practicing that identity. And of course, now you got a couple of major responsibilities. You shouldn't go into entrepreneurship unless you believe that you are responsible enough to maintain it all, right? Because if you're immature in that area and you add another giant responsibility, things are going to be shaky for a while. But if you believe that you're ready for it, then start identifying as that coffee shop owner who has a day job as a dentist. And I know, of course, I'm giving an extreme example here because that's not very common, right? That a dentist will go and start owning a coffee shop, but it happens.
Yeah.
And when you identify as that, then you are going to be thinking with that mind, but your subconscious mind is going to start coming up with creative ways of staying with that identity of that coffee shop.
Yeah. And moving on with that exact point, it's like addressing or shifting your thinking from that fear. Like, is this actually a barrier that's holding me back? Or is this a fear, my own fear,
Mm,
that's holding me back? And there's a huge difference. Okay. We put so many barriers to entry up there, and most of those are fears that are unfounded, or belief systems that we have inherited, and shifting from that. Is that an actual barrier to your success? Like, yes, a dentist can still own a coffee shop and have two successful businesses. That's fine. That's possible. So it's the mindset set shift of, I am only one. I can only be this. And these are the million reasons why I can't be. Well, there's also, if you're looking for reasons why you can't
you'll
succeed,
find,
there are millions of them out there.
of course,
Millions of them
yeah.
out there. And so it's really, really being objective and sifting through it and going, is this really a barrier, or is this me? Is this my fear holding me back? What have I got to lose? Assessing really, what is it that you have to lose? Is it your time? Is it your family? Is it your income? Because they're all weighted differently. And what will I feel like if I don't do this? And that for me is a big pull. I think
Yeah.
for me it's always been the biggest thing, is like, how will I feel when I'm 90 something and I'm sitting there thinking, I wish I'd done that. Always terrifies me, to be honest. So I think if it's me worrying about failing, that's ridiculous. I have to just try it.
Right. But the fear of failing is, first of all, most decisions made from a place of fear are wrong, right? I mean, not all, of course. If a flash flood is coming your way, there's a lot of fear and you better run, right? That's the right decision. But that doesn't happen that often, right? So most decisions made based on fear are wrong decisions.
Right.
And the reason why is because when you have a fear of something, that means that you are presupposing or you already believe that that thing which you fear is bigger than you.
Mm.
So the thing that is bigger than you is the aggressor, which makes you the victim. And victims never win, right? Victims can't win. Victims always lose. So when we make decisions from a place of fear, we have already decided that we are in a losing position. And when we have that, and I know, honestly, I've lived most of my life in fear.
Mm.
I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of flying, driving, being in open spaces, being closed spaces, being around a lot of people, being with no people, being in dark, being in bright.
Mm-hmm.
I spent most of my waking hours afraid of things.
Mm.
So this isn't passing judgment on anybody else. This is speaking from my personal experience. And and I developed this thing um, where I no longer need anything, right? Because victims need things.
Mm.
Victims, I was a refugee and I came as a refugee. I came with needs.
Mm-hmm.
Refugees don't bring anything good.
Right.
Refugees take, right? So I was in need of things and I was in need of shelter. I was in need of food. I was in need of physical care, right? Some sort of wellness care. I was in need of belonging to a tribe that's actually going to be with me, not against me. So I decided that I no longer need anything. My nervous system knows what it's like to need. So I no longer need anything.
Right.
I choose what I want and don't want. So when it comes to starting your own business, my own business, it's like, do I want this? What do I want? Right? And if I want this, it has to come from a place of wanting, right? It has to come from a place of really just choosing this thing.
Mm. Yeah.
Everything else that I don't want falls under the category of need, but I don't need anything because I'm no longer a refugee, I'm no longer a victim. So I only orient myself towards the things that I want. And it's been such a major game changer for me. And
Yeah.
I strongly encourage everybody to apply that in their own version of whatever that entrepreneurship is.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I love that. It changes everything, doesn't it? When you come from that place of want rather than need, you go about things so differently. It's not sort of desperate, I need this. It's no, I want this. And you just come across differently. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something we've talked about a lot. And just how your language can indicate whether you really want something versus whether you need it. When you come from that place of need, it's very obvious, and you're definitely starting on the back foot. So I really, really love that. What are some, you know, I know we talked about the framework of, you said the first two parts. Is there anything else that you think, if people are in this, I call it the no man's zone, where you're not sure, you just think, well, it's something I think I'm passionate about, because I've been there, where you think, I'd really like to set up, I know, X, Y, and Z. And then you think, well, I really enjoy doing that. And let's just say it was yoga. I really enjoy doing yoga, but am I passionate about it? Do I want to spend every waking hour? Am I really that into it? What do you say to people who aren't sure about whether that's something that they would want to do for the next 20 something years?
With the opportunities that we have today with the internet, and you can just kind of, I don't know, throw a dart and you can start a business in something. It isn't really that difficult to start your own corporation and to even represent yourself legally, because like with all
Right.
of these different websites, there's so many. Starting a business has become a really easy thing, right? It's doesn't necessarily make it profitable very early on. Most businesses don't get profitable early on, but starting the thing is relatively easy because of the resources that we have,
Yeah.
and because there's this ease in many things when it comes to business. Will you be passionate about doing this for the next 20 years? You have no idea. You really don't, right? So if you are, let's say, if you're like 44, like me, I would definitely recommend, and you won't know for sure. It's hard to tell for sure, but because you're meant to grow and learn and evolve. So I don't know what I'm gonna be like when I'm 64, right?
Right.
But I could actually have a envisioning exercise, right? I could sit down and picture myself what did I look like when I was 24? Well, I'm 44. So what could I look like when I'm 64? Heck, there are even apps that can tell you what you're going to look like when you're 64, right? It, and envision yourself then, and envision yourself doing this thing, being a yoga instructor, running a coffee shop, I don't know, doing whatever it is that you do. And envision yourself having that as part of your daily routine, and do that envisioning exercise for, let's say, 2 weeks every morning. Commit to it and see if you get tired of it.
Yeah.
See if you move on to, because your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So if it gets bored with it, then no, you're not going to want to do
Yeah. That's a good point. And also, as you said, speak to people about it while you are in that investigative stage. Speak to as many people as you can, get that mentorship, find out the ups and downs that they went through in their journey. You don't go in blind. There's a lot of value to having that kind of experience and that kind of mentorship to go in and say, well, so and so's done this and they can handhold me through this process. That's it's going to get you there quicker. Secondly, like we said, you can still stay in your current position. You don't have to jump ship quite yet. Just start doing all the groundwork for it. Get yourself ready and know as much as you can before you go into it. The other really important thing is, be very clear about what it is that you want. We talked about that want and need, but
it.
what it is that you're providing. That can take a long time. Who is it that you're serving? What it is that you want? Have some real clarity, because that's going to help you identify the special purpose that you bring to that. Your why. What are you doing differently? What's your X factor? What is it that you're going to bring that no one else does?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you can't get there unless you really know who you're serving, and how you're going to
Absolutely.
serve them. So those things are getting really clear, like that visualization exercise that Alma just spoke about, but also being really crystal clear. And that takes time. That does not take you quitting your job. You can do that
Mm-mm.
side by side. That takes time. So with all the excuses that you're piling up, it's really time to ask yourself, is it something that I really, really want? Because if it's something I really want to do, I will take that time and I
Yeah,
will invest that
absolutely.
time in myself, and I will figure
Yeah.
out, like, this is the way I really know that I'm going to give this the best shot I can, right? Is knowing
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do, who I'm going to serve, and how I'm going to serve them. What's going to be, how I'm going to do this differently, right? Because if you do it the
Yeah.
same as everyone else and you're a small fish in a pond, you're going to get eaten up. So you do have to have a different approach, and you do have to have your uniqueness and knowing what that brings.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then that brings you closer to going, okay, now I really know where I'm going. Now I really know who I'm serving. Now I really know I'm serving this not everyone. I'm serving this niche population because I believe I'm the right person for them because I do things this way. Then I think there's less of that apprehension of, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Because it becomes much clearer, much easier. Um, you're not, it's not muddy water, it's very,
Absolutely. And really just like you said, all of that, but we all have our own excuses, as you said, right? We
mm,
all have our own reasons. So for me, my limiting beliefs used to be, oh, I have an accent, or I don't have a good example, role models in my life for to start a business, or I don't have a degree in this thing that I want to do.
mhm,
So just to name three of mine, so going through those and saying, okay, great, those are all valid reasons, right? So let's find out. Okay, I don't have good role models. All right, well, let me find role models. Let me talk,
mhm,
like you said, let me go and find people. Let me talk to people. We know that people love to talk about themselves.
mm,
So let me talk to people. How did they do it? Then I have an accent. Great. Let me go find somebody else who's
yeah,
successful, who has an accent, maybe even thicker than mine, so that can crush my limiting belief. So I don't have a degree in this particular thing. I wanted to open up a smoothie shop one time, and I'm like,
mm,
I needed to have a nutritionist degree to open that up. Well, let me talk to smoothie shop owners and see who doesn't have a
right.
degree in it, right? So you want to be proactive in crushing those limiting beliefs that are holding you back so that they don't end up getting bigger than you are.
Yeah. And that's such good points to, we all have those limiting beliefs. And just to take it one step forward, be careful about who you're asking as well, because ask someone that you respect. Don't ask, you can get lots of naysayers, you can get lots of people that will say, you must have a degree for smoothie making, and that's their belief, that's their opinion, that's their protection. So really make sure that you would trust that person's opinion, because if you start taking the opinions of everyone, then you never do anything.
Right. Yes. Such a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Find somebody who has done it, right? Somebody who has done it who's opened up a smoothie shop without a degree in nutrition.
Right, there's lots of people that, and people don't always give you advice. Sometimes people give you advice based on their own fears too.
Exactly.
And so be aware of that. Don't sort of bundle in naively, and pick what you want. Pick the parts that are really helpful for you. But ultimately, no one is going to be able to tell you 100%. That's you. That's risk. That's part of this whole experience. But the chances are, like Alma said, you will fail at the start, and you'll fail many, many times. I've failed many, many times. I know, Alma, you have too. And you just have to tweak it. You have to pivot and move and move. And those failures actually just do improve your processes. And I know that's a cliche, but it's not going to happen at once. I don't know anyone that it's happened for straight off.
Right. Yeah. And that's why it's a cliche because it keeps getting repeated, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
If it wasn't constantly repeated, it wouldn't have become a cliche. So really our call to action, if you will, right? Our call to you is to pick your top three barriers or what you believe are your barriers to starting this journey yourself.
Mm.
And like I said, mine were have an accent, don't have a good role model, and don't have a degree in that thing. So pick your top three and find a solution for them, right? Let's not just sit on them, but let's identify them and then go improve that fearful part wrong, right? Prove that energized, driven part of you right. And that's what the purpose of
Yeah,
this.
that's a great start, isn't it, Alma? And then I think we can go into really getting clear on your niche and where you want
Yes.
to go. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions, but in particular, how you felt that exercise went for you, how it worked for you. And we will see you next time.
Yes, and have a great week, everyone.
Bye.